Why is that? Rough in a good way or a bad way?
Yes.
Well, how's the new job?
How's the new job?
Well, okay, so this is week 3 of the new job, and I started.
When do we stop calling it new?
I started really digging into some elements of the code that are very difficult and spark that imposter syndrome light.
Difficult because you haven't seen code like that, or difficult because it's crappy code?
Difficult because it's really good code.
Well, then it shouldn't be difficult.
It's really good code doing very difficult things. And that's something that I've that's my goal, right? That's my intention, is good code doing good things that are difficult. But when you're faced with someone else's code that is doing that, you get this imposter syndrome nightmare. Like, where is the bug? And I'm not sure, because this code is beautiful.
I get that all the time.
Well, I know. But this is the first time
when I look at Eric's code, I feel like that.
I've never felt that before.
That's because you've always been at the top of the food chain, right?
Sure.
So I don't know if this helps you, Tom. We did employee evaluations this week, which is something John and I have been working on. We're trying to get better at managing our team and giving them feedback. Employee evaluations has been one of the things that's been most requested by the employees, because they're like, we don't know where we stand with you
Kalen's
guys.
fired.
And we're like, well, we haven't fired you yet, so you
well, he hasn't had
pretty good.
He hasn't had his review.
Okay, so Kalen's gonna be fired.
Yeah, he's the one we've been holding off on. So, yeah. But it was interesting because in our head, like, we don't hire junior developers. We hire senior developers. I honestly feel with just about anybody on our team could step into a senior developer position without hesitation in an organization. And I always find it interesting when we hold our employee evaluations, some of the feedback we get. And one of the things that we got as feedback from one of our longer running employees, like employee...
Aren't they all long running at this point?
I know. I'm trying to remember when.
It's Frank.
I'm trying to remember when they onboarded, but that was their concern. They felt like they were suffering from. Well, they didn't think it was imposter syndrome. I mean, I think they kind of recognized it, but they didn't. They were losing confidence in how good of a job they were doing, and we're like, or at least I was like, where the hell is this coming from? Like, you've been cranking out the code. You've been tackling some of our most difficult projects, and you're killing it. Why is this a thing? Why are we having this conversation? There are a couple of people on the team I can understand that conversation with, but not this person.
Me being one of them.
Well, okay, so
absolutely, you saw your employee evaluation, right? So, you know where you stand.
I did have the best employee evaluation.
My process to this job was intentionally overselling myself, because people.
Well, you're supposed to.
Because people kept telling me, I can do this, I'm great at this, and then I've run up against a wall in the code where I'm just like overwhelmed by the complexity.
So here's what I think your real problem is. It's not the complexity. It might be the complexity, but I don't think that's what your real problem is. Do you want to know? I think what your real problem is.
You have every opportunity to hurt me right now, so please be careful.
No, I think your real problem is you're just accustomed to knowing everything. You're accustomed to having a full understanding of the code base. And this is probably one of the first times in your career that you've come into another code base that's been coded well, and you've just got to change your pattern a little bit. You can't just expect that you're going to rush in and figure everything out. There's only a few people I've seen do that. John's been one of them. John can go into any code base and put things together, and it's freaky weird.
There's institutional knowledge, which is fundamental to how quickly a group can perform, and there's sort of the position that I want, which is to establish what institutional knowledge is within the company. And because this is not my code base, I am kind of terrified.
But you can't establish what institutional knowledge is. It's already there. It's the knowledge that was there before you got there. So it's going to take some time to learn all the pieces of the code base. And you still aren't going to know it all, because I've been in the code base that I work in for 9 years now. And there are still people contributing code that I can't review everything because there's too many people. So when I go to look at someone, I got to take the time to figure it out. And I'm not going to go through that entire section of the code to figure out how it all works. I'm trying to figure out where a bug is, or where an issue is, or why something is acting the way it is. And I'm only going to learn a very small piece of what they did and not be able to grok it all.
And I'm not saying that I should understand this code base from ground one. I'm saying that not understanding it is creating these very specific pains in my head where I want to be in charge. I want to be knowledgeable on this code base, but there are things where I look at them for 5 hours and all I get out of it is a headache, and it's very difficult.
That's understandable. I do that same thing too. I go and look at some of the code written by somebody else that I haven't reviewed, I don't know about, and get lost and feel frustrated because I want to be that person that you're talking about. I want people to be able to come to me and say, how does this work? And I want to say, oh, it's like this.
Well, so
and at the end of the day, I just can't.
We joked a lot about me working for you guys, and
it was not a joke, but sure.
How do I?
I do believe there was an offer on the table.
On that one.
There was an offer on the table.
We've communicated a lot about me working for you guys and how that would function, and that wasn't a situation where I was pushing myself. That was a situation where I was. You guys had faith in me. No, for real. You guys had faith in me.
We weren't giving you enough of a challenge. Sorry, go ahead.
You guys know me. I wasn't presenting a best self-image to you guys. I was presenting myself to you guys, and you knew what I was capable of, and I feel like in my current position, I'm trying to push myself much, much, much harder.
Again, thanks. If you guys if I would have come to work for you guys, I wouldn't have done jack shit. I wouldn't have pushed myself at all.
I get what he's saying.
I do too.
I agree with John. If I had gone to work with you guys, I would not have pushed myself as hard as I'm pushing myself right now. Because I'm trying to set an expectation for myself and for somebody else. Whereas you guys already have an expectation for me.
So I will say that actually, before I became a full-time PHP developer, I was in a position where it was the first job I had that I realized, like, kind of what you're saying right now. I had no allies. Like, I had no
Wow,
friends
I got no
from
friends.
who
Got it.
who knew me before I took the position. I had nobody who would get my back and say, "Oh, I know what this person's capable of." This was a company I went in, very similar to your situation. A recruiter called me. I'm like, yeah, maybe it's time for a change. Interviewed, went and worked there, and I understand what you're talking about. And I know in my particular situation, I I was in this transition period in my life. I was tired of sysops. I really wanted to get into coding, um, and I was having this complex of there's nothing for me to contribute here at this company,
Okay, so
and
is
it
that
was also
IBM?
I don't understand that question. No, I didn't work for IBM, but uh,
Oh,
there was nothing for me to contribute, and I don't know. I feel like maybe what you're going through, I could have probably stuck it out, but I had a lot of other things going on at the time where I just didn't like what I was doing, and once I got this exposure of what it takes to kind of quote unquote run a company, I'm like, I could do that. Like, I would rather code and do my own thing than what I'm doing now, which just didn't feel like it fit. But more towards what I think you're facing right now is you're coming to the realization that there's nobody there that has your back. You feel like you're walking around with a target on yourself, and eventually somebody's going to see that target and realize, hey, this guy's a fraud. Let's shoot the target. You gotta push that down. I mean, you just gotta
It's
have
so
faith
hard.
yeah.
in what you're
But my
doing.
question is, how do I do that? So, I got 6 resumes yesterday that I went through, and I looked at like 3 of them and just was like, no, throw them in the garbage. This is not. They're applying for the wrong position. And it made me think about my resume and why am I so charismatic that I just pulled through my own resume, and or like is my resume so good that I pulled like I don't. This is
But I tell you what,
I'm stressed out.
we say it jokingly, but I honestly feel like John and I started Diego Dev because I had the realization nobody was going to hire me. I wouldn't want to work for any company that would hire me as a developer. I was like, that would be such a terrible
Right, but
thing.
isn't
I'm
I
gonna
thought we
isn't
screw
that
did.
this whole
I thought that we
podcast?
did. I thought we did because it was the whole those that can do and those that can't hire people to do it.
That's right. Yeah.
Well,
That's where we went with it.
and so that's oddly reminiscent of where I'm at. Is I'm looking at code and I can understand the code that I'm looking at is really really good, but fuck, it's hard. It's
I mean, you have friends you can reach out to. You have people you can ping. I pinged you several times of the last few weeks, Tom. You specifically, and have said, "Hey, have you worked with this package? I haven't. Give me some info." I have. I mean, either you don't have any faith in me, or you're just not reaching out and pinging anybody because I haven't heard from you. Is there like a particular pattern or flow or piece of the code that you're struggling with?
Is the person that wrote it still there?
I'm struggling segueing into Cloudways. I don't want to answer any of these questions. I do.
All right.
You
well,
do. All right, you do that. Go do the thing you got to do, and then we'll catch up later.
let's take a moment and thank our sponsor, Cloudways.
We bring today's podcast to you in cooperation with Cloudways, a managed cloud hosting platform built for your PHP projects. If you simply wish to focus on your business, Cloudways is the way to go. They take over server management and security and free up time that you can dedicate to growing your business and acquiring new clients. Their platform offers you a choice of infrastructure as a service partners, such as AWS, Google Cloud, DigitalOcean, Linode, and Vultr. In addition, you get a performance-optimized stack, managed backups, and staging environment where you can test your code before pushing it to live servers. Best of all, Composer and Git come pre-installed so you can get your projects up and running quickly. All this power, simplicity, and peace of mind falls right in line with their brand slogan, moving dreams forward. Be sure to visit cloudways.com today, sign up using the promo code PHPUgly, and get a $25 credit. Thanks, Cloudways.
Thanks, Cloudways.
Oh.
So nobody panic. Tom didn't break down and curl up in a ball and is crying under his table.
Are you sure?
Over.
He might be.
No, he's over in the corner. I can see him. He's over in the corner crying. So, no, I shouldn't make fun of him. Tom had to run out and pick up his daughter, I believe, from work. So yes. He will hopefully be back. So since we just came out of our sponsors section of Cloudways, I noticed you didn't comment on the link I sent you earlier. And since we're so low on content, I'm just going to add it to the show notes. But Cloudways did an interview with me, had interviewed me.
I did. I started reading it, and you said you weren't looking to share it, so I didn't comment on it. I started reading it. It was it started getting to be a longer read, so I just was gonna hold off on it.
Okay. Yeah.
But it was good.
Yeah.
It started out great. I mean, I like that they were asking more about you, and at the beginning I was like, I didn't know anything about this.
Oh, really? What part didn't you know about? I thought we've talked about everything.
No, I didn't know you were doing it. First of all, I didn't know you were doing that interview. That's all I meant. But yeah, I thought it turned out good.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I guess they have a whole little segment of interviews they did with PHP developers, and they reached out and they're like, hey, we've really enjoyed being a sponsor of yours. We've been seeing PHP Ugly come up more and more in some conversations, so we're curious if you'd be interested in doing a profile. I'm like, yeah, at first I thought it was like, profile of everybody. And then they sent me the questions, and I feel bad because I actually sat on it for probably a week. They sent it, the last couple of weeks have been so crazy for me. And I probably sat on it for about a week. And
just saw the last question and your answer, and I'm baffled by that. Bastard. Whom should we interview next and why?
Well,
you are a dick.
I couldn't have picked any of us because they already
Of course you
interviewed
could
us.
have. No, they interviewed you.
So I felt bad because I'd sat on this questionnaire for so long, and I'm such an idiot too. I do this regularly for PHP Architect. I send questionnaires out to people. Like, we either do a video chat, and then I'll transcribe the video chat for my article, or I'll just send out a questionnaire depending on where they are in the world. Sometimes that's just easier.
So how they feel while they're waiting for your response.
Yeah. and my particular practice is that I phrase the questionnaire very kind of casual conversation, and then I'll extract what they said and kind of read through it and organize thoughts correctly, because not everybody will respond like a nice organized
point,
yeah. So I kind of go through the responses and everything. So I was pretty intoxicated when I decided I needed to get this filled out and back to them. I was like, it ended up being like 1 or 2 in the morning when I finally sent it back. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, yeah, they'll just proofread all this and it'll be fine. And then it's like, yeah, no, they like that last question, the exact question you're talking about, whom should we interview next and why? I'm like, I thought that was just them looking for a lead. Like, hey, do you have any ideas of anybody else we should interview? I didn't realize that was going to be part of the article because I remember I was typing. I'm like, God, I hope John never finds out. No.
You know where I got to? I was reading through, and they're asking about the SDPHP meetup, and it just made me sad. I got there, and I'm like,
Me
You
too.
answered it well in the fact that they asked if we're going to start SDPHP meetups back up this year, and he said probably not. And you have very valid points of, yes, things are starting to open up more and more. California is going to maskless here in less than a month, where if you're vaccinated, you don't need to wear a mask. And things seem to be getting somewhat back to normal, but there's still the fact that meetups need a place to host. And if I was running a business that usually allowed outside meetups to use their space, at this point in time, I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to hold off for a little while longer.
Right? Yeah.
Why am I going to risk anything for my employees? There's no reason to extend that service at this point in time. Let's wait and see where things are at. So I agree. It's going to be a ways off, but it still made me sad.
Yeah, I was even more envious. I popped on Arizona PHP meetup this week, and I'm not sure if this was going to be their last virtual meetup. I think they're going to try to do a hybrid for the next couple of meetups, but their plan is to start meeting in person next month. They're like, hey,
wow,
we've talked to Pagely. We're going to meet in person next month, and it's like, damn, I'm like, I was actually starting to like these virtual like Arizona was one of the ones I try to catch every month or so. So yeah, they're going back to in person. I think I heard of another one going back to in person. We have Longhorn PHP, which is going to be an in person conference coming up in October, and yeah,
call for papers is currently open. If you're wanting to give a presentation to a conference, they have their call for papers open currently. I'm hoping the best for them. Some phrase like that. I'm hoping they do well. I'm curious to see what kind of response they're getting. Do they have a lot of people ready and willing to travel to an in-person conference?
I'm really curious about that too. And when you're putting together a conference, that's like one of those things you're not always Fort Worth, not Fort. I keep saying Fort Worth. I got Fort Worth in the brain here. You're not always completely honest on, because if sales are not going great, you don't want to share that, because it's like, oh no, sales are great,
Of course.
Yeah,
but I think it's one of those things. If I were in my 20s, no wife, no kids, probably would go. But having kids at home, there's no way I'm going to take that risk right now, even being vaccinated.
Well, in they're also pretty fortunate where they have a pretty substantial local community who don't really have to get on a plane. I mean, even as far 3-4 hours out is easy drive to Austin for a lot of Texans. So
I would have thought that for Wave PHP too, but LA said,
God,
screw you guys.
Right? I totally thought. I remember having that conversation. I'm like, honestly, if all we get are people from San Diego to LA, I think we'll be fine. I don't think we got anybody from LA
or San Diego.
Gosh, man, that was hard. That was one of the hardest things I feel like we did. I feel like we put so much effort into it. I feel like we pulled it off so well. and
I love doing it. It's just
it just wasn't
so,
embraced really.
so I'm hoping the best for them. Hope they can pull it off and have a good turnout.
I'm pretty confident they will, and they will be my focal point of next month's PHP Architect Community Corner. Yep.
Is it next? I know there was confusion when we talked about it on our last podcast. So it's going to be the June issue?
Yep, it's the June issue. Yes.
Gotcha.
For sure. So Kevin brings up an interesting question in Discord, and it was actually pretty well timed. So if you're not familiar with the show, or if you haven't heard us talk about it before, we do have a pretty active Discord channel, and we take requests like during the show. So, but all good.
I was gonna say before you go down that road, I wanted to know more about your week and how things went.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We don't need it. I mean, Kevin, I appreciate the content, but Kevin, I still want to know more.
We're gonna get to it because I already shared the Twitter link that kind of brings it together. So to finish that thought, discord.phpugly.com if you're interested in joining. We're in there all week long. We're constantly having conversations. We have a couple channels that are pretty active. So feel free to pop in there. Again, when I have issues, I'll just pop in there. I'll be in there on the weekend. We were working through the PHP bot once in the Discord, and people were giving me suggestions and directions and things like that. So I have really grown to enjoy our Discord channel. It's been it's really one of my favorite things with my week. So speaking of my week, thanks for asking, John. Very busy week. I owe you a huge debt of gratitude. I did, for the first time, take my iPad with me. I had to go out to Arizona last weekend. My mother and sister were officially moving to another state, and couldn't have been worse timing. I mean, my mom ended up she was supposed to have gotten some knee surgery a few months ago, and they ended up pushing it out, and so she had just gotten the knee surgery. She ended up in rehab, and like, the moment she comes out of rehab, she jumps on a plane to fly out to where they're moving so that she can sign off on the house and get the keys and all that. It was absolute chaos of a week last week at the end, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was just a madhouse. And so we had gone out there to help them pack up and move. And, moving is never fun, but I had my niece and nephew were already there, my sister's kids, and my sister's daughter and her husband. My sister's kids didn't get married. My sister's daughter and her husband. Is that still a nephew? Do you still call him nephew if it's a nephew-in-law? Yeah, I call him nephew all the time.
Yeah.
But they're maniacs. First thing, the job that they have, they moved a lot. They work in the grocery store industry, and they just were moving up the ladder so quickly. And they were in Arizona, then they were in Texas, then they were in Ventura here in California.
This is your niece and nephew.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
So they were really accustomed to moving. So they got there and they just rampaged the house. I was appreciative because by the time I got out there Friday, they'd basically gotten everything done. There were just like a couple of small things for me to do. We had to bring some stuff home on an old piece of furniture my wife's grandfather made for us when we first got married, things like that. So I spent the week.
Speaking of when you got married, happy anniversary.
That's true. Yes, I celebrated my 32nd anniversary yesterday. Still officially yesterday, May 26th, 1989. The wife and I tied the knot, so she hasn't been able to get away from me yet. Everything's binding.
She keeps trying, but you keep holding on.
But I took my iPad out there and I had set up my SSH tunnel into my desktop. And this has been a big thing for me because with the idea of being able to go to coffee shops again, maybe working away from out of the house for a couple hours is something I might want to do. But I haven't been using my MacBook Pro. Like ever since I've gotten my System 76 desktop, I've just like I haven't been touching it, and I've gotten such a nice workflow on my System 76 machine. Yeah, I start to moan and like, oh, I got to update my laptop for this weekend and that. So John had the idea of, well, you have an extremely powerful Linux machine sitting on your desk right now, just SSH to that. And I'm like, shit, I got my iPad. There's no reason I can't do that. And so I set up the SSH tunnel, and I did it this weekend. And I had since I knew I was traveling, I had done it like the week before, and I started using Tmux. I think I even mentioned on last week's show how Tmux has now become a regular thing with my workflows. And I've been even setting up, like for each of my clients now, I have different Tmux sessions, and it's just awesome, man. I'm so happy with it. But yeah, when I got out there, all I had was my iPad. And I didn't have to do any coding. Like I didn't have any pressing deadline where I'm like, I got to get on, but I had to try it. I'm like, I got to see how well this works. I got to see how responsive it is. It was glorious. It was so fantastic. I mean, it was, it was weird because I'm so used to my Kinesis keyboard, my Advantage 2 keyboard, which is this massive, concaved, what's it, not Ergo? Yeah, Ergo keyboard.
Ergonomic, yeah.
Yeah, ergonomic keyboard for my big paws that trying to type on my little iPad keyboard was painful. But I imagine that would have been the same thing with the laptop. I don't think that had anything to do with the iPad. And I have the nice keyboard I have the iPad Pro with the nice keyboard. Made my SSH connection. I tunneled my my Docker port 80 back. I tunneled my MySQL 3306 back, and I had tables on my iPad. Tables has an iPad client, and I had my browser. I had Slack. I had Discord. I had all my normal apps that I run on my desktop, which run native on iPad. And then I was back in my Vim world, baby. I was Vimming it, and I was loving it. And
Nice.
I got to tell you, I have a Vim ally. Somebody reached out to me. Somebody I respect a lot reached out to me, and called Vim. I was complaining about something in my Vim, and they're like, hey, did you look at this and that? And we ended up doing a Zoom call for probably about an hour, and cleaned up my Vim settings, and I've literally been using Vim this entire week. Like I haven't.
Did you push that up to your repo? Your changes?
Yeah.
I mean, you push because you have your vimrc available in your GitHub account, right?
No, not publicly, not my new one, and it's a good thing too because they actually pointed out. He said, "Hey, you have your IntelliSense keys in there." Yes, I did too. So you should know that if you ever make your repo public. But yeah, they were actually very very helpful. And that's always my paranoia because I have like I see these coders that like upload all their dot files. And I want to do that. I think it's very helpful. I use it all the time. I'll go in and see how people are doing stuff. But I've tried to remember not to put like secret keys and stuff in my .files folder. But occasionally, like the IntelliSense one comes through where I had actually configured it in Vim, and it was that Command and Conquer. I think I configured it through Command and Conquer. I don't remember exactly how I did it now, but it ends up putting it in a file in my files.
What are the IntelliSense keys?
Conquer of commands. So I paid for it. It's like $3 or $4. I forget how much it is. It's some ridiculously low number, but I paid for an IntelliSense plugin for Vim, so that it's not basically, it's the same IntelliSense that's in VS Code. I don't know if it's the same one that's in PHP Storm, but it's the same IntelliSense that's in VS Code. I just paid the $3 or $4 license so that I could have it in Vim as well.
Huh.
So it works. I mean, it works really well. But I had these.
Good.
Go ahead.
Nope. You had these.
I had these other little quirky things going on in Vim, and they helped me clean it up. And I'm like, wow, and it worked. Like I said, the PHP Storm makes me a lazier developer. Okay, I got my ass chewed out every way from Sunday from everybody around me on that one. I stand by that though. No, but but this week was a perfect example because PHP Storm is something I would lean on heavily when I was working on Livewire components, because Vim just doesn't understand Livewire, right? It doesn't get Livewire. It doesn't know how everything is connected. So I would always go back to PHP Storm. So this week I'm like, no, fuck that. I got this terminal thing going on. I'm really feeling good. I'm staying in Vim this week with this project, and I worked on it, all this Livewire stuff. And it's just like simple things like understanding where the Livewire components are being stored, because like the jump to file and jump to definition, which is in Vim now with this conquer of commands, you can jump to files and jump to definitions, but it doesn't do it with Livewire because it just doesn't understand the concept of Livewire from like a blade template to be able to jump to a file. It doesn't realize, it's pointing to a file or something. So understanding where components are being stored, how things were interacting, it's like I got such a better sense of it because I was using Vim, and I wasn't just dependent on, okay, I'm just going to let PHP Storm figure this out for me and take me to where I need to be. I don't know, man. I got to be honest with you. I feel validated with my opinion on Vim. I'm not trying to talk bad about people who use PHP Storm, VS Code, or any other IDE. I'm not going to be that person. I swear to God, I'm not. But I feel like I am a stronger developer when I use Vim. I just am.
I was asking about your vimrc file for a reason. I use Vim when I'm trying to do something quick. I can get in there. I can manipulate text very quickly with Vim. I can do a lot of search and replace. I can move around a file very quickly. Not necessarily when I'm coding, but there are occasions when I jump into it and I realize I don't have a vimrc file on my local machine. So I went in there real quick.
Gotcha.
Just yesterday or the day before. I'm like, just the stupid simple stuff like my shift width, my tab stop, my expand tab. The super simple things I want, where I'm so sick of hitting tab and being 8 spaces over because it drives me nuts. And it's not even spaces, it's a tab. So I went to your repo and I went down this stupid rabbit hole. I never actually got to your vimrc file because I'm like, wait, what is this profile thing? How do you have that? What are these GitHub stars things? How do I have that? So now I have my own John Congdon repo so that I can have my README MD file because I learned that from you. I now have my little GitHub stats thing because I learned that from you. So I went down this whole rabbit hole over a vimrc file that I never actually got to.
I got to see what I have out there public. I bet you I still have one public. So my goal this weekend, I don't know if I'll get it done, is to at very least make my Vim, and I don't use Vim anymore. I use NeoVim, so it's not a vimrc file anymore for me. It's an init.vim file, but that's it regardless. It still translates back and forth.
Oh, no, I need something new, huh?
My goal this weekend is to get in a position where I'm comfortable publishing all my dot files, like my tmux, my Vim, all my dot files. I want to get comfortable to publish. I just need to go through to make sure I got all the keys out. But at very least, I think I can at least get my Vim file, my current Vim configuration published, so anybody who wants to use it. So that'll be my goal this weekend.
How does NeoVim compare to Vim? What is the difference here?
I honestly don't think there's a huge difference. I for Vim 8. So
Wow.
Vim has iterated. So there's Vim 8 that's out, and there's NeoVim, which got forked, went in a different direction. A lot of the difference is a philosophy difference, which we can kind of get into because it kind of plays into things we've talked about. But the people around NeoVim felt like contributors to Vim weren't getting credit, and there was like this gatekeeper in Vim. I forget the person's name, but he seemed pretty stringent on what he allowed in Vim and how and all this other stuff. So NeoVim, I think, was more of a practice in kind of this, just, hey, we want a different governance model around this. And they did use, they still use it. They initially started using this Lua language to do their stuff. So it is a different language, but everything translates over. So if you can literally grab your vimrc file, throw it into a init.vim file, and everything just works. It's fine. But where there was some difference, it's really kind of, that difference has narrowed a lot.
I just want to say I'm not part of Eric's heresy that there isn't a big difference. The open source community loves just small differences, and Eric is being extraordinarily ignorant, saying that there's not a big difference. There's a huge.
Okay, what's the big difference?
There's a huge.
What?
What? No.
You can't call.
I know there's a huge difference in like fundamental policy, free as in beer. You can't just say they're not that different, because someone will crucify you.
Well, but they're both open source, and again, I don't know all the particulars. I'm a complete consumer in this world. I've just kind of caught bits and pieces, but they're both still open source. It was just, so we have this conversation a lot with Laravel, right? About Taylor being like this gatekeeper to what gets in, what doesn't get in, and he'll iterate on stuff that he wants to get done, but maybe not pull another thing. So it's my understanding of it. It was kind of the same thing with the Vim code base as well. And I know the NeoVim people who contribute to NeoVim take great pride in how big the contributor list is getting in NeoVim compared to what the contributor list is in Vim. Dude, you got to fix this. What are you doing? You are killing me. So yeah, that all. But to kind of bring this full circle, Kevin in our Discord channel asked, "Hey, what is our opinion on the Laravel ecosystem?" And he referenced a link on Laravel.com, and I thought that was an interesting question at the time, because Taylor actually tweeted out today. He sent out a tweet that says, "Hey, sometimes I see people use me me and a few others as an example of solving the open source sustainability problem." He says, "I don't think I have. I built an entirely separate business around an open source product. So now I manage two things: an open source product and the business." This actually almost echoes something, again, my ally and I were discussing of. So with Laravel and the release cycles with Laravel and how quickly releases come out, the thing I kind of had mentioned, because we were having a conversation about it, was that I think in Taylor's opinion, and this is just me, I don't know, I haven't had this conversation with Taylor, but I think one of the things Taylor thinks is, hey, I use Laravel more than anybody. I have businesses built around the Laravel framework all over the place. I know Laravel probably better than anybody. So if I'm okay with these releases, why wouldn't everybody else be okay with these releases? I think you mean
Symfony.
I think that's part
of it. Huh? Taylor uses Symfony more than anyone else. There are a lot of people that use Laravel more than Taylor.
Well, okay, maybe. But to Taylor's point, and to address Kevin's kind of conversation, so Taylor has built several products on his open source
I know.
framework that aren't open source.
I understand that you're trying not to upset me, but I'm so upset at Laravel right now. Again,
What did I miss? What are you upset about?
it's I'm stuck with telling my boss that I have to have Laravel updated every week, and my boss telling me, "Well, okay, that's a DevOps thing. It's gonna have to be on his schedule." But that should not be the case. Every week we have to do regression testing for the security fixes plus the two new things that are being integrated into the system.
If you have unit tests around your code, you should be fine. But if you are unit testing your code, you should be good to go.
But what I saw in the last 2 months was SQL injection vulnerabilities and authentication vulnerabilities that allowed you to, if you knew it for the last 4 years, it was there, that let you log in as anyone.
Yeah, but that's true. That's true with any fucking framework, any code. There are vulnerabilities that are available that you don't necessarily know about. They were patched. You got an update. If you have proper CI/CD in place and you have proper tests around all of your code, it should be a matter of put it through the test. Your test passed. You should be confident in releasing.
And at my new position, 100% we have unit testing, functional testing, CI/CD that gets that shit done. But at my old position, I'm starting to see where the cracks were, and I didn't know it because we weren't a Fortune 500 or a top income earner or whatever. The Laravel wants to cast itself as an artisan's toolkit. I'm sorry, Eric. You're so upset right now.
No. I'm honestly not. I'm. It's the stupid cat. Is you don't even want to know half of what's going on.
My issue is
he's got a new kitty. Do you know the kitty's name?
What? It's like Control-Shift-Q bang. Can't get rid of it that easy.
No. The kids and wife named him Bug. I guess
that's
this
right.
is a D&D thing. Are you a D&D
Bugbear.
person?
You called him Bugbear, yeah.
Bugbear. Yeah. So there's this Bugbear thing, and so they're like, we're calling him Bug. And I'm like, then I shall call him Feature. And I had to explain.
You're supposed to laugh.
Oh no, and he sits on your keyboard and introduces lots of new bugs.
Yeah. I mean, look at this is where he's at right now. He's probably like he always needs to be held. Oh, did I wake you up? I'm sorry, buddy. I've never had a cat that wanted to be held as much as this cat. It's the weirdest, and I don't even like cats. I mean, I don't have a problem with cats.
Aside from Eric's cat, when I have a ticket that has a spelling error on a page and I see another spelling error on that page, I have to introduce a new ticket to fix that other spelling error because our review system...
Seriously?
The regulatory system that manages my company says we have to know why these tickets are changing. We have to compare every pull request with every story in your epic.
Oh, that'd be so
It
annoying.
is. However, it makes sure that foreign code doesn't just make itself into the system. It's annoying, but it's effective. But then there's the weekly update of Laravel, where we are bringing in untested, brand new, possibly backwards breaking code. You guys don't want to hear it, but it's driving me insane. It was bad at my previous company. It's much worse here. It's driving me crazy.
Well, and you're the person that needs to fix it. That's all.
And
But he's not allowed to fix it.
Michael Dorinda, did you have a problem seeing my pussy?
oh my god,
that seemed very rude of
God.
you. Michael Dorinda,
It's his pussy cat.
He's waking up. He's waking up. See, he's awake. Now he's gonna go back to sleep on my arm. This is tough. Okay.
John,
All right, off of Laravel. I've been way into event sourcing this week. I've been absolutely loving it. The end. No.
Are you using packages or anything like that? Or are you just doing it old school?
I am using Event Sauce. I mean, it's been part of the code base. We are using it for various things. I'm actually using it to retrofit existing code, which I thought was going to be impossible to do.
It seems like that would be a pain in the ass with event sourcing.
It is, but what I've worked out is a way to retrofit. So it's going to be done in stages. The first stage is getting the events just being fired and stored. At the same time, I happen to be projecting to brand new tables that have the same structure as existing tables, so that at the end of a process, I can compare old tables with new tables and say, I'm getting all the events and I'm projecting the data correctly.
okay, so here's where I need
this
clarification. What do you mean by events?
Okay, that's a good question. So in event sourcing, you have an aggregate root. You have something you are modeling. You could have a user that you are modeling, and then every single thing that changes the state of that model, that aggregate, is done through events. Your events are: user was created, email address was updated, whatever, any other piece of data that changes the state of that record, and you store the events. And then later, when you say, give me this user, you have two ways of doing it. You can say, ask the aggregate root, hey, give me a user with this UUID, and it replays all of the events to reconstitute the state of that object or that model. The other way is, as the events are happening, you project them to a table, and that becomes your read model. I'm going to this table now, which will give me the current data. I'm going to go to this cache to get my data. I'm going to go to this document store to get my data. And the beauty is you can project to multiple places. So I can project over here to where I'm going to do my authentication. And I can also project over to another document store where I'm going to do these hard searches. Maybe it's a specific search database. And now you have the events so that you can replay them at any point in time and figure out where did things change, when did they change, why did they change, who changed them. And to me, that's the major thing. What changed, when, why, who. And could also be how. Like, was it an API request? Was it a web request? Was it something else? You could also blow away your projections and reproject to fix your state.
Yeah,
because
cool.
you should never be
because
you should never be updating your table.
Fix your state sounds like remodeling.
So let's say you set up a read model, and I'm using user. Let's go with another scenario. The project I work on has millions of rows in a contacts table, and it's constantly being searched. Updating an index on a table takes forever.
Yeah, I did it. I did
What
it for
if,
2 weeks once.
right? What if instead you create a completely new table that you're not using yet? You reread in every single one of your events, reproject them to this new table with the proper index, and then you start using that table in place of the original table. It's a matter of changing your model to say, hey, instead of going to my contact table, I'm going to go to my contact better search table, whatever you name it. It's just one of the benefits of event sourcing. The fact that I am able to retrofit it into legacy code is what's most appealing to me.
Mm-hmm.
I can get the events, I can project them so that I can prove that my before and after doesn't change without really affecting existing code. So that's a huge scary thing when you're changing code that you're relying on to run your business. So what we decided to do is do it in steps where there would be an event slash command to do something. Instead, we're just projecting the event, and that event is getting stored and projected into a temporary table. The next goal is compare the two tables, which obviously I'm doing in development, but we would do it in production and say, hey, there's no difference here. Things are projecting properly, which means we're at least getting the right data within our events. And I'm also getting more data, which is beautiful. I'm storing data that we don't currently know we need.
Mm-hmm.
The next step, replace the existing code that's not well tested with a command that says, hey, I want to do X. The aggregate is responsible for making sure it's allowed to be done. You then have a command that will do said thing, which is now I can now test, which I currently can't test in the legacy code base. It's just a huge pain in the ass. I have a command that now does the thing. It projects the events, which I already know work. So now all I got to do is replace existing code with the command that does the work, and things should be golden. So it's a phased approach to retrofit event sourcing into legacy code.
Are you guys? Are you guys? Do you have a specific use case for using event sourcing, or are you just implementing it for, I don't know, certifications or something?
No, that's a great question. We are adding functionality to Phone Burner currently. It's always been an outbound product, and
Mm-hmm.
now the functionality to add inbound is coming in. The way that those two pieces work are so vastly different, but at the end of the day, they're all phone calls, right?
Mm-hmm.
So inbound is a completely separate module within the system. It's handled differently. It's got a different set of events. Outbound has no events currently, and that's what I'm retrofitting the events, the outbound portion of it. The goal is take the events from inbound and outbound, project them to a new place that says, here are all the calls that Eric has been a part of. Your inbound and your outbound. Here's how we're going to do reporting. Here's how we're going to do billing. Like everything else can be now handled off of the projections from both of these systems.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a huge benefit in that piece, not just the trying to fix legacy crap. Like
Mm-hmm.
just in the little bit I've done in the past month, I'm like, hey, my events now have more data than our table currently allows for. So I could tell you not only this ID, but I could tell you what the name of that was at the time that it happened. So if somebody goes and changes something, I can tell you a little more information. And to me, that's huge. Like having the data, the state that the system was in at that point in time is priceless.
You know what else is priceless? This is probably a good spot to mention our other sponsor, Honey Badger. And we took steps this week to do them some justice. So let's give
did.
Honey Badger a thanks. Thomas.
Hit the button.
Oh, that one.
When you're in production, 1,000 things can go wrong. You could deploy a bug in your latest release. Your background jobs can silently fail. Someone could trip over the network cable at your data center, and this all comes back to you. You need to know when bad things happen and be able to respond to them quickly. That's why we built Honey Badger. It's easy to install Honey Badger in your back-end applications and front-end JavaScript. It only takes a few minutes of configuration and you'll have monitoring done. That's because we hook into popular web frameworks, job systems, and the browser, so that when any of them crash, we can automatically let you know. We ping your application from our global fleet of servers to let you know about problems with connectivity, latency, and SSL certificates, and we monitor your recurring jobs to see if any of them stop recurring. When there's a problem, we alert your team using the tools you already use. We can create issues in GitHub, Jira, and other issue trackers, and send notifications via Slack, PagerDuty, or other channels. When you click through, you'll be taken to detailed information on the error. You'll see things like request parameters, headers, user information, and the backtrace. Click on any line of the backtrace to view it in GitHub, Bitbucket, or your local editor. When you fix a problem, just mark it resolved and follow up with the affected user. That's Honey Badger. We're the monitoring tool for web developers who'd rather be, well, developing.
Get this wrapped up.
I like that song a lot.
Thanks, Honey
Thank
Badger.
you, Honey Badger.
Thank you, Honey Badger.
We're just jumping right into Patreons. We do have a new Patreon. Oh, we missed them. Dream Up. Dream Up is a new Patreon this week. Now we got to wait for the name to come back
I am
around.
getting personally attacked
Thanks, Dream
by
Up.
John for being drunk.
That was done with not being on the air.
Well, now it is. How do you feel about that?
I, for the record, he wasn't upset you were drunk. He just mentioned you might be too drunk.
That is a good point. No, I think it's important to.
John had his wasted high episode, which we really should have. We really should have just taken that one. I got to go back through and find that one. I don't
2 hours
where
of
that
silence
was.
quoting John.
Just John with glass eyes looking at the camera.
Asking if
I
we're
don't
done
think
yet.
this is for me at all.
And and now we have Tom just drunk off his ass episode.
I'm not drunk off my ass. I'm stressed. And I think it's important to recognize that when you're committing yourself to self-improvement, there are going to be very, very, very stressful moments in your life.
There's Dream Up again. Thank you for being a new Patreon.
Thank you.
You can probably come off the Patreon page now. It's scrolled a couple times. You're doing great, Tom.
Thank you. I forgot I lost my glasses. There they are. No, stress is a part of this career choice. John and Eric have chosen to run their own company doing web development, which is stressful in a very understandable way. You're not just,
especially in 2020.
Right, you're not just handling code, you're handling people, business, and the love that you have for software development. And it's important to me that I reflect that my stress is that I love what I do. Yes, it's very difficult, and there's going to be very hard times.
You could have been less stressed if you worked for us. I'm just saying. I mean, the offer's not there anymore. It was at one point.
But
Yeah, you get way too freaking hammered for us.
But
man.
my goal, I'm in a very unique position. My goal is to be the person in charge, and when you're given that opportunity, you're not given it just as cards in hand. You're being told to take this opportunity. I'm trying to make the best of being in a new coding environment and software that I don't necessarily understand, but establishing best practices. And yeah, it's real stressful, but it's absolutely worth it for me.
It is.
Good.
You'll get
Awesome.
through it. Yeah.
And
you'll
then,
get through it.
the teenager stuff. My oldest son is a high school graduate as of Wednesday. It was a
Cool.
very
Congratulations.
close call.
One of my kids is a college graduate as
Magna
of today.
cum-
I mean,
magna cum
technically
laude.
They graduated. Whatever that means, yeah.
Yeah, I
magna
know.
cum laude. I know what it means. It means they
It
with
means-
honors
no, it means
and all
right on
that.
the
But
face.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
that was rude.
Not right. Not right.
That
at
was
all.
very rude.
It means
That will not be the show title. Nobody type that in to Discord, please. Uh-oh. Who's that?
Not it.
Not me.
I've renamed my dog to Nothing Is Easy.
Okay, so
So
when your kids
yours-
graduated,
Well, Eric, you have two fully graduated children. I have one graduated child and two 17-year-olds who are embarking upon the concept of being an adult.
Was embarking on purpose.
Yes. John, you have little adorable, wonderful children.
And they're gonna stay little and adorable
Forever.
forever. I told my 4-year-old I would give him $1 if he didn't turn 5 in July. He told me no. He didn't want my dollar.
I will pay $30. Just raise that money up a lot more. Don't.
all right.
Yeah.
I feel like we need to start wrapping this up. I feel like we're running long here. I'm not so sure, but I feel like this show's going on forever. I don't know. It could just be me.
It is running long in the tooth.
Why was
Tom, do you have something else you want to say?
I don't like doing this show sober. I gotta be honest with you. I didn't drink tonight, and this kind of sucks.
Now I want to know why that is, because you never do the show without a drink.
I drank pretty hard at lunch today, and I just wasn't in the mood to drink
too.
again. So
With your daughters graduating, gotcha.
Yeah. We went out for lunch, and we have a tradition in our family for all like major events. We do shots of Jameson and had a few drinks. So I was good. And I was just coming off the drunkenness and sobering up, and I'm like, I'm not gonna go back down right now. I gotta keep it.
Well, I mean,
keep it up.
nothing's gonna
So-
beat that 4th birthday party.
And Thomas is clearly drank enough for all of us tonight. So
You know,
All right.
dynamically
Go ahead.
scoped classes.
Buttery, we have done shots of
It
Jameson
has
for
been a rough
breakfast
one.
this year. For the kid's birthday, I have twins, and for their birthday, we took them out to Breakfast Republic, which is a really nice breakfast place we have, and they serve alcohol. And so 10 o'clock in the morning, we're doing shots of Jameson because that's how we roll here in SoCal.
God, that just sounds like Wave PHP all over again. All right.
I think that's it.
That's it. This has been episode 200.
38.
28.
38. 238.
I don't know anymore. I'm so lost.
This is probably our last episode with sponsors. You guys should all be very aware of this. Wait. We want to thank everybody who's stuck with us this long. I'm Eric.
I'm Tom. Keep it ugly.
Keep it ugly. That's the wrong one.
1, 2, 1, 2.
1, 2, 1, 2. Coming
Jesus,
off the top,
you're
y'all
wasted.
know how we do. Listen, I'ma drop a freestyle you can cherish. I'ma send a shout out to the host named Eric. Yo, he's never on some average shit. You know, Eric, he stays loud and passionate. I'm about to break it down for y'all with the clever song. Yo, shout the host named Thomas, cause he's never wrong. Yo, shout to John. You know that he's smart and quiet, unlike my freestyles, which cause a riot. I'm about to do it like this, cause the people love me. Shouts out to PHP, the ugly. It's called ugly cause it's not professional, but I'm about to come through and bless it with style. So let's do it when I'm spitting. I perfume the room. Yo, the segment of the show is called Doom and Gloom. That came from Thomas. Yeah, can nobody go beyond this? I get the mic and then I'm about to keep it like a promise. Yeah, and y'all know we fill them up with anguish. We talking about the PHP, the programming language. About to break it down, no exaggeration. What do y'all do for a living? Web applications. Okay, I can dig it. My words spray tight. They getting together on the Thursday nights. Yeah, when it comes to rhyming, you can call me the new dude. I spew true lyrics while y'all broadcast on YouTube. So let's get it. You know my lyrics are major. All up in the comments, they got plenty of haters, but they doing what they doing. Keep it ugly. We ending every show with the saying it's lovely. Let's go. Hey, shout out to y'all. Peace to the whole squad, man. Hope your channel is...
Okay, so just promise me you're not going to pass out before you stop the stream, okay?
Yeah.
He's not promising me that.
That doesn't sound
was
promising
not
at all.
promising.
Eric, I think you're muted.
C Films, you
No, you're not. Stop.
okay?
Keep going.
C Films, you always pop on so late. Man, I'm sorry. Functional programming in PHP has actually been a topic we've been talking about in PHP Architect. You can go listen to a couple of those podcasts. I don't think I have my head around it, but I know it's gaining in popularity. So no, I don't use functional programming in the true sense of.
I mean, you do at times. That's what I took away
Yeah.
from one of our recent PHP Architect
You can kill
podcasts.
Zencaster.
Was I am doing it at times, not realizing I'm doing functional programming.
Yeah. So maybe, John, do you remember? It was like a couple months ago, right? I don't think it was last month. I think it was the month before last. But there's a couple of PHP podcasts out there talking about functional programming.
We just recorded one this week. I think it was the previous one, the one for April.
Okay, I think you might be right. It was either
March or April.
Yeah, March or April. Yeah. It was March or April for sure. So no, neither John and I knowingly do it as a practice, but
So what I learned while we were recording that was I do it when we are, for example, writing closures. We are often writing functional code because you're writing a closure that always does a thing, but it's not in the true sense of functional programming.
Yeah. All right. You okay there, buddy? You are fading hard.
I think you're fading harder than I did when I was high.
I'm pretty sure he's a little both right now.
Yeah,
Do you You need to stop the stream?
No.
No, let's not do anything sensible. Yeah, that doesn't.
No,
let's not do that.
Hey Tom, I reached
my son's in inpatient care again. For.
Oh no! Sorry.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Do you want that on stream? Hey, Tom, I reached diamond in 2s.
Nice.
I don't know what that means.
In Rocket League.
Is that still a thing?
You say that like I haven't been doing it for 10 years, and I know how that makes me feel. It's been way too long. No, it's been a really long week.
Can I if I click on the shared screen, if I click on stop streaming enough, will it actually stop streaming? No. I should probably think about doing that. Hey, you have virtual cameras now?
No.
What? It says virtual camera right there.
It says stop virtual camera right there.
Where?
That's what he said. That's what he's talking about.
Jesus.
Right there. It says stop virtual camera.
I didn't mean to do that.
Did you ever start the stream? Maybe nobody's actually talking to us in Discord. Maybe you're so wasted, none of this actually happened.
You've seen that Onion video, right?
I don't know what the Onion video is.
Well, I know what the Onion is. Which Onion video? You know the Onion.
This one. Yeah, I know what the Onion is. I didn't realize that's what he was referring to.
Hold on.
Eventually. Hey, thanks, Patreons, by the way, if you're still listening. We appreciate you.
Thanks. Thanks, Patreons. He's going to share it on the stream. Oh boy. Yeah.
That's true for this episode.
I thought the Onion was supposed to be satire. This feels pretty
no,
out of the nail there. Oh, Jesus God. What the hell? What's happening? Stop the video.
I have told my kids so many times. They're like, "Oh, you
not to drink or do drugs."
I know. My daughter's like, "You didn't know this, but that one time when I snuck out of the house, I was really high." And me and Becky were like, "Yeah, we know. Yeah." No.
I think I got the title of the show this week.
You didn't die, right? Mom just drove the car through the garage door. You're okay. It's only happened once.
Oh my goodness.
The one time.
There we go. I got her. It's gonna be a PSA. It's gonna be a PSA title this week. All right, buddy. Hey, listen. I honestly hope that things get better with what you're working through at work. But if you do need like another set of eyes or somebody to bounce ideas off of, John is right there on Slack.
So variables.
Yeah, I use them.
Yeah,
often.
I don't use those a lot. And we have a lot of like stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 that are based off of strings that are turned into variable objects. So like execute the jobs of stage 1 and then execute the jobs of stage. It's so dense.
We're recording, so I'll shut up now.
It's so dense. It drives me insane.
You can. All right. Thanks everyone for watching. We appreciate you.